Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of The Human Side of Marketing. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, Kurt Stockwell.
Hello, Chris.
Hello, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Fall is right around the corner.
Holy cow. Yes.
Can't believe it.
Yes. And there are many things that happen at the turn of the fall season. We have school coming up. We've got, people hunkering down for the last quarter of the year, kind of getting ready for that.
Yeah, we
a lot of things.
We always get really busy at the end of the year because everybody is trying to focus on getting that last thing done.
Yes, that last thing in the light of many things. Well, I keep exacerbating this.
Right. The listeners are like, okay, they're setting something up.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about that one thing, which means what to you exactly?
That one thing, right? So this is episode 36, and we're going to focus on the fact that your marketing messaging needs to be delivered in small bite-sized chunks because people are busy. We are inundated constantly with marketing messaging that's super noisy and always in our face. And so if you can deliver your marketing message in small bite-sized chunks, focusing on one thing at a time, you are more likely to get engagement. And the thing that I think people need, the kind of the knee-jerk reaction to marketing is, I've got to say everything everywhere. Right. And when you do that, it's just like this information dump.
Yeah.
And people will tune you out.
It's overload.
It's overload. So the one thing, that's the episode. That's the name of this episode.
I think people try to cram, to your point, they try to cram too much in. And I don't know if it's because they don't know if they're going to see the person again, right? Yeah. Or what if this person bounces from my website? By the way, this is why content marketing is so powerful, because it's an ongoing conversation. You get to keep dropping pieces in over time, or one thing's in. Like every episode we've done, Kurt, has been a one thing. Like here's one thing, here's another thing, here's another thing. But if you don't have that, if you don't have a plan for your marketing, which is what you guys help people do, but if you don't have a plan for your marketing, then you try to get a whole bunch done in a really short amount of time and people get overwhelmed, I think.
Yeah, and you're totally right. And any marketing expert that you listen to these days, whether it's Seth Godin or Gary Vaynerchuk or fill in the blank, they are all saying that your marketing messaging needs to consistently bring value. It needs to consistently be more utility than salesy, and it needs to be consistent. And so I think one reason why people try to do a information dump whenever they shoot out their marketing messaging is because they're not focused on a plan. They're not focused on doing things kind of consistently, maybe once a day, once a week, once every 2 weeks kind of a thing. They're just like, oh crap, we haven't put anything out on social media in a while, or we haven't sent our email newsletter out in 6 months. And so we got to get that thing out. And so they feel like you said, I'm not going to get eyeballs on my marketing, or this person's going to go away once they read this thing. So I'm just going to dump everything all in one message, and hopefully it sticks. Right. But like I said, every, marketing leader right now is saying that doesn't work anymore. Yep. And you need to have a consistent message that is delivered in small bite-sized chunks. So, people are distracted and busy, and they're more likely to consume your full message if you we've talked about this before, kind of open a story loop in their mind and allow them to come into your website, for example, or maybe, like a white paper, or, maybe even into the brick and mortar, and kind of explore for themselves, what to try to close that story loop, or to try to find out more information. So you want to kind of deliver things in a way that just, like we always say too, sets the hook and makes them want to engage.
What are some of the places, tangible places, you would see this one thing?
Yeah. So if you have multiple places, really is where it should be. But if you do email campaigns, be consistent with it and focus on one thing at a time. Don't write some gigantic email message if you're doing consistent email marketing. Just focus on one service, or focus on one product, or focus on one maybe success story. Maybe your one thing is a testimonial. or focus on, you know, one of the things that you help your customers avoid. So maybe you're helping, and we talked about this before a few episodes back, where you're helping them avoid failure. Deliver it in small bite-sized chunks and allow them to take the next step and say, hey, if you'd like to learn more about this, go here. Because I don't know about you, but whenever I open up an email that I know is probably going to be marketing to me, and that email is like a paragraph.
Yeah.
And it's like 200 words maybe, I'm thinking, oh, cool, I can consume this. But if it's like this gigantic thing that's just full of, and people think too, if I put a bunch of pretty pictures in there too and have a bunch of information, people will read it. Likely not, you know.
Yeah.
So set that hook and focus on one thing, and then lead them into taking that next step. And that's where they might come to your website. Now, a website's a little bit different because there's lots of one things, but deliver them in small bite-sized chunks. And one great way to do that, if you consider like the laptop of, if you consider looking at your website on a laptop, every scroll that you take, like, so I've got a Mac, and every 2-finger scroll, right, that I take with my trackpad, it should kind of deliver the next little chunk of information. So you'll see a lot of websites that are designed really well these days. It's like there's a lot of what's called white space, meaning there's a lot of space between the copy, and maybe the photo or the picture of the product, and then a brief little description is next to that photo or picture. But it's not paragraphs and paragraphs. It's small bite-sized chunks of information.
Right.
And so consider that with your website. You know, start with the header of your website. And we've talked about, you know, in past episodes, what things to put on your homepage, what things to put on the areas above the fold. So if you're listening and want to go back and listen to those, you know, I invite you to do that, because we really dove into what are the things that you should say on your website in these small bite-sized chunks.
Right.
And then when people want to learn more, they can go dig into your website a little bit deeper, and maybe you have a paragraph or 2 or 3 or 4 on a page where it's appropriate. Once the hook's set in their mouth, once you've kind of it's almost kind of like, hey, do I have permission to tell you the full story? If I do, then I want to invite you to this page. Right. So it's kind of, and that's speaking of marketing experts, Seth Godin has a book called Permission Marketing. So a little plug for Seth there if you go check out that book. But videos, another thing too. You know, people listening probably have heard that a really kind of great way to do a video initially for that initial hook in the mouth is less than a minute or a little bit over a minute. Now, long form videos can work, but often it's after they've consumed something very brief that goes, oh, I'm interested to learn more.
Yeah.
And so video is another one, you know, stick to one thing. Social posts, another thing, stick to one thing. And then again, it opens a story loop in people's minds that they can understand. I can understand the concept of what you're going for here with really clear, well-written copy, and then invite them to that next thing.
Yeah. I love that for, especially like on the topic of video. I don't mind longer videos when people are creating videos, but it should be thematic. Like you should have one direction you're headed. And sometimes where you can have longer videos, but if you have longer videos that ramble, then it's tough because people are like, I don't know what you're trying to say. But if you're saying something really good, there's a lot of truth in it. You can have a longer video and people will stick around, but I see it a lot with video where people will ramble.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to focus the thought they want to share. And so it goes all over the place.
Right. That's a great point. And you'll see a lot of times when we do, if we we don't produce video or do video, but we've got a colleague that we work with often who does produce video. And when we talk to our clients about producing video in particular, we say, you know, you can do a 6 minute video, but let's kind of intro, or let's invite them into that 6 minute video with maybe a shorter video. Right. Or to your point, I know that you've got quite a tribe or a following of folks that you do longer videos, but you're very good at sticking to a single topic. And if you need to have something that's a little bit longer in copy or maybe even in video, present that one thing right away. Like, hey, here's the problem that we're going to talk about, or the problem in this area is this. And it makes a lot of people feel this way. Okay, well, now let's dive in.
Yep.
And like with any good movie, you can sit there for a couple hours where in the first 10 minutes, you're going, okay, here's the character. Okay, here's his problem. Here's Jason Bourne. He has amnesia. I understand that. And he's trying to figure out who he is. All right, I'm invested now because I get the point of the one thing that's going on with Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
And now I can sit here for 2 hours because I'm understanding where we're going.
Totally.
And that's probably another, kind of great point to this is sticking to that one thing will give people the direction that they're looking for. Where are we going in this conversation?
Right. Yeah. I love it. You can do that with like when we're setting up these episodes, like you'll come up with a topic. Sometimes it's as easy as that. Like if you're planning out emails, if you're planning out videos, you're planning out your website, just even listing like, what's this thing about? What's this email about? And then what's the next one thing email about? And that could be an easy way to start to plan.
Yeah.
Because then the rest is just details around that one thing.
Right. One exercise that we do with customers, and we've talked about it before, we call it a 10 by 10. And you take, it's literally a grid of 100 different topics. Okay. So you take, so if you're thinking like looking at this on a big sheet of butcher paper, for example, you write 1 through 10 across horizontally, and then you write down your top main topics or products or offers or services. And then below each one of those main 10, you write 10 different topics about each one of those things. So maybe, one of your services relates to like being on site. Maybe you're like a plumber or a landscaping company or, an event planner or something. So one of your topics might be once you're on site, right? And so you're writing 10 different things about being on site. So each one of those things is a single thing that you can talk about in your marketing. You don't have to ramble about it all.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a really good exercise if you're trying to figure out, especially for social media, what do I talk about and how do I talk about it? Focus on that. And once you do that exercise, like I said, you've got 100 things to talk about. After you build that grid out of 10 by 10.
Yeah. So good. I love it. Well, this is really helpful, I think, for people to start to wrap their head around marketing or being, the human side of marketing, right? I mean, how do we, most people just don't even get in the game of marketing because it's so overwhelming. Even there, you're going, okay, well, what's the one thing I need to do to get into marketing? I need to know what to say. I didn't even know what to say. So like great segue for you guys. I mean, a lot of what you do is help people figure out what to say. Like, what is your message?
Yeah, we're a marketing company that we focus on helping businesses find clarity in their messaging. How do I talk about my product or service in a way that's clear, that will engage more customers and keep more customers that I want to, keep more great customers. So, so we help businesses find clarity in their marketing messaging. Often where the deliverable for that is often a website, but it can be delivered in so many other different ways too.
I know there's a starting place for all that. So when people are ready to clarify their message, where does that start with you and how do they connect with you for that?
Yeah, you can go to clarifymymarketing.com, and there's a place there where you can schedule a meeting with myself, and we'll sit down and just kind of chat about where you're stuck, kind of where your head's at with your messaging and where you feel stuck. If you want to go to our website, it's welldressedwalrus.com or wdwalrus.com. That's where you can find this episode and multiple episodes, as well as all of our different offerings. Nice. If you want to get the human side of marketing in the podcast form, go and search The Human Side of Marketing wherever you get podcasts.
Love it. Good stuff today, Kurt. The one thing. Thanks for this thing today.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your summer. Until next time.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
See ya.
Bye-bye.